This guide covers all the actions Conjurer and White Mage learns from level 1 to 50 in order. We go over how each action is meant to be used and recommend ways to use it when relevant. In the summary, we will cover a detailed attack rotation and healing tips and advice for use at level 50 that encompasses all of the things you learn throughout this guide. Now then, Stone is your starting spell and it functions as your filler spell that you use when nothing more important, like healing, takes priority. Incorporating attacking in group combat is a core part of healing in Final Fantasy XIV, so it is better to practice finding time to do so as early as possible. It is, however, always more important to keep your group alive than being too greedy with damage. At level 2, you learn the spell Cure, which works as your efficient healing spell. This means that when you start getting access to other, more potent healing spells, Cure becomes the spell you use only when you literally cannot afford anything else and are just desperately trying to hold on. It can also be used if you know you need to top someone's HP up, but you also know that using a more potent heal would be unnecessary. At level 4, you learn the spell Arrow, which is an instant attack that applies a damage over time effect, or DOT for short. The total damage of Arrow is more than twice as much as Stone and is equal to Stone if the dot lasts at least 9 seconds on the target. You should try to apply Arrow to as many enemies as you can in a fight before resorting to casting Stone. Reapply Arrow when its duration is at around 1 or 2 seconds to make sure it never drops off completely. At level 8, you learn the role action and spell Repose, which puts your target to sleep for 30 seconds or until they take direct damage. It is considered an extremely niche spell and you may likely never ever need to use it. In the event that you do feel that there is an overwhelming amount of enemies in a dungeon, you can use this to stop enemies one by one. Take note that as the sleep is only stopped by direct damage, the dot from Arrow does not actually cancel it, although applying Arrow itself will due to the upfront damage. At level 10, you learn the spell Medica. This is your simple area of effect, AoE for short, healing spell. If you need to heal more than one person at once, then this is much more efficient than casting Cure on each of them one at a time. You also learn the role action and spell Esuna, which removes a single, removable debuff on your target. You can identify a removable debuff by the bluish-white line above the debuff icon. Some debuffs are more important to remove than others. For instance, a slow effect, whether it is movement or attack speed, is likely to assist your group more than spending that time casting Stone. Paralysis is especially important to remove, as the random stuns from it can be lethal or especially problematic for mages, including yourself. Sometimes dots can be removed too, and sometimes they can be dangerous, and other times they are so weak that it isn't worth the effort of removing them. You can only really tell from the damage the affected player ends up taking, and then keeping it in mind for the future. At level 12, you learn the spell Raise. This is your resurrection spell that brings a dead player back to life. Be aware that it costs a lot of MP and takes ages to cast. When a player is resurrected this way, they lose some of their primary attributes, like strength, for a while, resulting in doing less damage. This is a minor issue. More importantly, when a player is resurrected, they are completely impervious to damage and negative effects, except knockbacks, for 5 seconds. Unless they do anything other than movement. Using Sprint also removes the effect. At level 14, you learn the role action and ability Lucid Dreaming, which recovers a massive 3850 MP over 21 seconds. Unlike weapon skills and spells, abilities can be used while the global recast timer is spinning. After casting a spell with a cast time of 1.5 seconds or less, like Stone or Cure, you have enough time to weave a single ability, which is a crucial part of playing efficiently as a healer. Lucid Dreaming should be weaved on cooldown as long as you are below 8000 MP and should absolutely not be kept as a last resort reserve when you are already out of MP. Use it early and often, even if some of the MP it grants ends up going to waste. If you want to learn more about the global recast timer, global cooldown, and weaving, I have 2 shorts dedicated to explaining this specific subject. Find them in the iCard in the top right or in the description. At level 15, you unlock access to dungeons. A tip if you're having problems keeping up with your tank in your groups. Use Sprint when you see the tank do so. Additionally, you can also use Sprint just before entering combat, as this means Sprint lasts 20 seconds instead of 10. Take note that casting anything on your tank if they are in combat will also put you in combat. While the tank is pulling, you can make use of the time to apply Arrow to as many enemies as possible for some extra damage. At level 18, Stone permanently upgrades to Stone 2. greatly boosting its damage. However, Arrow still beats it if it lasts at least 15 seconds, so this does not really change anything for your rotation. You also learn the role action and ability Swift Cast, which makes your next spell instant. While this can be used to cast Cure, Stone or Medica while on the move, the most important way to use it is to skip the enormous cast time of Raise. Outside of desperate measures as last resorts, we generally want to only raise players with the combo of Swift Cast and Raise to do so instantly. Without Swift Cast, you will rarely even have the opportunity or time to fully cast Raise in the first place. This does mean you typically only have the capacity to raise one player every minute. At level 30, you learn the spell Cure 2, which does not override Cure 1. Cure 2 is significantly more potent than Cure 1, but also costs significantly more MP. Even so, Cure 2 should be your go-to healing spell. The fact that Cure 2 costs more MP usually won't cause you any issues as long as you heal efficiently and use Lucid Dreaming often. Cure 1 should only be used as your last resort if you are genuinely running out of MP. Also at level 30, doing your class quest line will eventually lead you to the White Mage quest, which is available once you complete the main scenario quest Self Management. Once you unlock the White Mage, remember to equip your Soul Crystal to change into the White Mage job. As an extra optional bonus, leveling Conjurer to level 30 gives you access to the quest Unicorn Power at the Conjurer's Guild, which awards you a unicorn mount. The starting action of the White Mage is the ability Presence of Mind, which allows you to cast much faster for 15 seconds. You will rarely ever need to spam healing spells so fast that Presence of Mind becomes necessary, so while you can save it as a panic button of some sort, it is recommended to use Presence of Mind on cooldown for spamming stone casts, as it will massively increase your damage output in its duration. You can also, in a desperate situation, use Presence of Mind to more easily find the time to cast Raise repeatedly without Swift Cast. Your spellcast will benefit from the cast time reduction as long as you manage to start the cast while the buff is still active on you, even if the buff runs out mid-cast. At level 32, you learn the trait Free Cure, which grants Cure 1 a small chance of causing your next Cure 2 to be free on cast. This only matters if you're using Cure 1 because you're running out of MP. In those cases, a free Cure 2 could possibly be life-saving. You should not be casting Cure 1 to fish for these procs, as they're commonly called, as the time wasted by casting Cure 1 instead of Cure 2 could have been used on more useful things like attacking or even healing several players. At level 35, you learn the spell Regen, which is instant and applies a healing over time effect, HOT for short, on your target that heals for almost 3 times the healing of Cure 1 for the same cost. This is, aside from big cooldowns learned later, your most powerful heal in terms of single target potency. In most situations, you want to keep Regen active on your tank as long as they are taking any meaningful amounts of damage to save yourself from having to cast your more expensive heals. At level 40, you learn the spell Cure 3, which also does not override Cure 1 or 2. Cure 3 heals in an AoE around your target, however, the area it affects is notably smaller than Medica. If players are stacked closely enough, Cure 3 is a very strong instant healing option. Just keep in mind that it is also quite expensive. In most cases, I recommend using Medica instead, as it is much more likely to hit all the targets you intend to hit. At level 44, you learn the role action and ability Surecast. This ability makes you immune to most knockbacks and also makes you immune to interruption as a result of damage. What this means is that sometimes when you're hit with a particularly powerful attack, your spellcast is completely cancelled. This cannot happen when Surecast is active. At level 45, you learn the spell Holy, which is an AoE attack centered on yourself. Holy beats Stone when it hits at least 2 targets, and beats Arrow with at least 3 targets, and so you should simply spam it while standing in the crowd of enemies. Take note that Holy takes the full 2.5 seconds to cast, so you cannot weave anything between attacks, and unless you learn how to perform slide casting, which I have a short about as well, you can't move at all. If you need to move a significant amount, or need to weave something like Lucid Dreaming, you should cast a different spell to make space for this. Holy also stuns all enemies hit for 4 seconds, so you should wait with casting it until the tank is done pulling the enemies together, otherwise it will cause the group a lot of problems in clumping the enemies together. Note that effects like stuns are affected by the mechanic known as diminishing returns. The first stun lasts a full 4 seconds, the second only lasts half as long, the third a fourth of the duration, and every application beyond that will simply not work, leading to holy spamming granting a total of around 7 seconds of stun. While this could be super convenient to optimize by using the cast smartly, the damage done by the spell is too high to ignore and takes priority way above and beyond what the stun management could. If there are 2 or more targets, holy should be your default attack. At level 46, Arrow is upgraded to Arrow 2, greatly increasing its total damage, once again making it superior to Stone 2 if it lasts at least 9 seconds. Holy beats Arrow 2 if there are at least 4 targets, so with 3 targets you should still apply Arrow to all the enemies. Even so, while the tank is pulling, you should apply Arrow to as many enemies as you can until they are clumped together for Holy. At level 48, you learn the role action and ability Rescue. This only works in combat, and only if you and your target are both in combat, otherwise you will either be incapable of using it, or the game will report that you missed. Rescue will, after about a second delay, drag your target to the location you were in when you cast it. Knockback immunities like Surecast also makes players immune to Rescue. The delay before the action takes effect means that you may need to react early when you need to use it, for it to be beneficial at all to your target. Remember that Rescue drags the target, so if there's something dangerous between you, this may also cause problems. At level 50, you learn the spell Medica 2, which does not override Medica 1 either. While Medica 2 heals slightly less than Medica 1 up front, the HUD it applies overtakes Medica 1 within 3 seconds. As such, Medica 2 should always be your go-to AoE healing option. In fact, if just 2 players benefit from the full potency of Medica 2, it is more potent and time efficient than all of your other healing spells, including Regen. If your party needs an enormous amount of AoE healing, using Medica 2 once, and then using Medica 1 or Cure 3 is optimal, as the vast majority of the value of Medica 2 is concentrated in the HUD. You also learn the ability Benediction, the ultimate healing action. It instantly fully heals your target. Its cooldown is quite long though, so do make sure to make it count when you use it. With that said, don't sit on it forever, but also don't throw it out to heal something you could easily have done with a different healing spell. Now, to round off, let's cover an actual boss fight opener and rotation, followed by AoE adjustments and then some healing advice. Remember, keeping your party alive is always more important than pushing damage, but being efficient with your time also matters. Let's begin. Apply Regen before the tank pulls if possible. You can also cast Medica 2 to start the fight with a HUD on everyone. As the tank runs up to the boss, cast Stone, and then Arrow, followed by Weaving Presence of Mind. Late weaving it is recommended. Then you simply spam Stone and reapply Arrow as needed. For 2 or 3 targets, maintain Arrow on both targets and fill with Holy instead. For 4 or more targets, just spam Holy and apply Arrow as a filler if you have to move or weave something. Weaving Presence of Mind to spam Holy can also greatly increase your damage output. For healing, you should make sure to keep Regen active on the tank as long as the tank will benefit from the healing. Cure 2 should be your go-to single target healing option, while Medica 2 is your best AoE healing option. Remember, take a deep breath. The healing from Medica 2 takes a bit to take effect, so as long as a lot more AoE damage isn't forthcoming, you don't have to top everyone up immediately. At this level, I recommend saving Benediction as a last resort panic button, even if you can use it in clever ways to find more time to attack by letting the tank drop low beforehand. Simply having this last resort on hand allows you to take a bit more risks in general. For massive amounts of AoE healing, start with Medica 2 and then use Medica 1 or Cure 3. For individual players that need a lot of healing, Regen or Cure 2 are the best options. Cure 1 should only be used if you actually cannot afford anything else, or are almost at this point. Use Swiftcast together with Raise to efficiently raise another player. Izuna can be used to remove dangerous or annoying debuffs when you see the bluish-white line indicating a removable debuff. And of course, remember to use Lucid Dreaming early and often, most effective if used when below 8000 MP. Now, that is all for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to support me and my channel, you can like the video, leave a comment, subscribe and hit the bell to get notified when next I post a video. And if you want to give even more support than that, you can also become a member of the channel like these wonderful people here. Fun fact, White Mages used to have an ability called Fluid Aura, which was their water magic attack. It did AoE damage and knocked back enemies, making it very problematic in groups. The damage component was removed in Stormblood, and the knockback replaced with a bind in Shadowbringers, and it was entirely removed with the release of Endwalker. This is why White Mages have no water attack spells.